Aquarius, welcome to your week ahead astrology forecast by Astrology Motivation from Born Without Boundaries. In these weekly videos, I review the major planetary aspects and transits and how they impact your natal sun, so what that means for your bottom line. And to enjoy this video and understand this video, all you need to know is your birth date, because I will translate everything else. We're going to start out really broad with the big stuff, the stuff that's going to impact all of us. And then I'll focus things down to Aquarius specific information. And then I will break things down into the 3 decans of Aquarius. A decan is a group of 10 degrees. And by breaking things into those 3 decans, I'll be able to see where, based on where your natal sun is located, and I'll know that by your birthday, what kind of angles it's forming to other planets. And in astrology, the angles that form between planets create aspects. An aspect is a relationship formed based on the angle between 2 planets and what energy ensues because of that relationship. So let's dive in. It is a mischievous week for you guys, and you're going to find out why. And it's you really that's creating this mischievousness. So let's get into it. The big stuff. Let's start big. This is the week of July 26th through August 1st, 2023. I have it all written down. 2 sets of notes. I love writing shit down. The biggest transit we have is that Mercury is going from Leo, where it is very bold and blunt and outspoken, to Virgo, where it is highly pragmatic, very rational, logical, and organized. And it likes to do its work in quiet, not necessarily hidden, but it likes the space and the time to be able to schedule things. But it's very precise and very intellectual, and it has a level of objectivity in Virgo that it does not have in Leo. In Leo, it's a little bit too passionate and quick to speak. It's home, so it's one of its domiciles. So this is where it really finds itself the strongest and most comfortable and confident. Good news for this week, finally, the opposition between the Sun and Pluto will end around the 28th, 29th of this week. And thank God, because that's what really made everything feel so heavy and imminent and pressure. Like, oh, right? Now that's being relieved. We also have another big relief because Mars and Saturn finally move enough away from each other so that they're not in a strong opposition to each other anymore. However, Mercury slides right in and gets to be in opposition to Saturn. We're much better off with Mercury opposite Saturn than we are with Mars opposite Saturn. Mars opposite Saturn is angry. It creates a lot of frustration and anger and impulsivity and resentfulness. But not so much Mercury. Mercury is, combating the restrictions, laws, rules, and regulations, especially Mercury and Virgo, but does this make sense? And tell me why. Maybe being a little bit too strict to the laws, rules, and regulations, but also I think it's clever enough to see that maybe that's not the best idea. In the beginning of this week, Mercury is going to be square to Uranus, while Mercury is conjunct to Venus. Now, this is where the mischievousness comes in. Very much like A Midsummer's Night's Dream, this is when things get said based on wanting to rebel and wanting to exert our own independence and being interested in the odd things that never interested us before, and being able to speak eloquently and passionately enough to really take some action that maybe is off the norm, out of norm, and would surprise people. That could have a lot to do with what's going on the internet, or something that does go on the internet that maybe shouldn't be going on the internet. Watch your DMs, see what rolls up in there, or what rolls up in the DMs of your spouses, because there could be some tumultuousness and fluctuation, unexpected fluctuation in our relationships this week, because some things get said, actions get taken, curiosities get indulged in. The Sun square Jupiter starts on the 29th, and that really is just going to exacerbate our desire to be bigger, be more, want to push us forward, maybe frustrating us and maybe even making us think we could do more than we can. But either way, there's still optimism here. And the trine between Jupiter and Mars is absolutely beautiful because we need this optimism and we need these leaps of faith and action. Action is blessed this week. So let's jump. One more thing. There is a grand, really quickly, on the 29th, a grand fire trine forms. And that is between the moon, the south node, and Venus. Moon will be in Sagittarius at that time, in the third decan of Sagittarius. Of course, south node is in the third decan of Aries. And Venus is in the third decan of Leo. All of this in a grand trine that could give us a preview of where we're headed based on passions we're finally settling into. And remember, it's just about this time that Venus and Mercury are in perfect conjunction. It's around the 28th that happens. And they are also square to Uranus while this happens. So these kinds of levels of passion could actually shift and twist our trajectory, but not in a bad way, in a good way. If you've ever watched A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare, whether it was live on stage or one of the movies that's been made of it, you will know that sometimes things need to be turned on their head to set them right. And that's why I'm not scared of this energy. It's actually kind of playful, a playful, tumultuous, and mischievous way of turning us on our head so that we are set straight. So let's get into what this means for you guys in particular. So for Aquarius in particular, I look at two different things. What's going on in Aquarius, the zodiac sign of Aquarius, and also what's going on with your ruling dignitaries. Yes, I used plural because even though Uranus is your modern ruler, you're still going to be impacted by Saturn. It doesn't just drop off. And a lot of your set in your ways, stubbornness, and very traditional way of doing things comes from the fact that Saturn is still an influence on you. It is your traditional ruler, whereas Uranus is your modern ruler. So let's get into what's going on with Saturn, shall we? Saturn is in retrograde in Pisces. It's going to move between 6 and 5 degrees Pisces. It is in opposition to Mars that we talked about up through the 28th, and then things change, right? We feel restricted, and all of a sudden things change, and Mercury goes in and says, oh, maybe we just weren't saying things that we needed to say. Or maybe we just don't have things in place that make things make sense. Let's see what happens from the 29th on. And there still is that semi-square to Chiron, but that gets a lot less depressed and anxiety-ridden once Mars moves on. And with Mercury, there's enough objectivity to try to figure some stuff out as to, should we even have these restrictions? Like, what are they even there for, right? Questioning is a very, very good there. We also have Uranus, of course. What's happening with Uranus? Well, Uranus is the mischief maker. Uranus almost reminds me of Loki, but like not evil Loki, just like mischievous Loki, that kind of energy. Uranus is at 22 degrees Taurus. Hasn't moved much. It is square to Venus and square to Mercury from the 26th to the 28th, and then for the rest of the week, it's just square to Venus in retrograde. It's going to bring up some surprises, even some surprise conversations, some surprise love notes, maybe even some love notes that you didn't realize were sent to you. Like I said, it'll come up. Uranus is technology, so some technology might bring up some of this forbidden love affairs or this unknown love or interest, or you might discover that your ex has been shopping a little too much on OnlyFans. Whatever it is, I'm just saying it's gonna be mischievous. Uranus is trying to Pluto for years to come. This always has to do with a big shift, especially in technology, big tech, the way that we see the universe in general. Mathematics, this could be game-changing mathematics as well, but that will take place over the next couple of years. And then trine to the moon on the 31st, which is really interesting because the moon is conjunct to Pluto then. And I think then we can get some intuitive insights into these oddities that we're not so afraid of anymore. So what's going on in Aquarius? Well, the moon visits Aquarius between the 31st and the 1st. So July 31st to August 1st. Don't forget to say rabbit. Don't forget, because there's a lot of crazy stuff happening this week. you could get lucky. Well, the moon in Aquarius is really interesting because it's very, very, very particular about people, like everybody being okay or feeling like you've done right by the crowd. Not necessarily about popularity, but am I helping people? Because I don't feel good enough if I don't feel like I'm making an impact socially. Now, why is this important? Because, baby, on August 1st, we have a full moon. We have a full moon in Aquarius. So there's an intensity there of something that needs to pop, of some stress that needs to be released, especially with regards to community efforts, or have we done enough? Have we felt we have contributed enough? And this moon, the full moon is not in direct opposition to Venus, though it is not far off. Venus is, I think, about by that point going to be about 27 degrees retrograde in Leo. The full moon, I believe, happens in the second decan of Aquarius. This full moon on August 1st happens around 9-10 degrees Aquarius, in opposition to the sun in Leo. So it's just skating on that border of heading into the second decan. Now, the sun is in the second decan of, no. It's not yet quite. It's just skating on that second decan line. So this full moon is square to Jupiter. It's also semi-square to Neptune and quincunx to Mars. I think there's been a lot of bullshit that has been said or promised to make ourselves look good, or look like we're charitable, or look like we're kind, or look like we were just thinking about somebody else. This is global, not necessarily you in particular. And I think somebody's about to call bullshit. That's what I think comes out or explodes. Because this can absolutely reveal where we have strayed, where we have been overindulgent, and there's this sense of, oh, but I did it to help others. Did you? Did you really? I mean, this could be, especially because of that semi-square to Neptune, this sense of your Neptune is in reverse, in retrograde. Your veil is thinning. We see through your BS. We see through the illusion. The illusion is very clear at this point. This is like the magician revealing its tricks. The moon, quincunx to Mars, is frustrated and angry energy. It's excitable. This could also be a sense of we're sick and tired of things happening the way that they are, and people just talking about it or making empty promises. Especially since while this moon is full, Mercury is in opposition to Saturn. Do we mean what we've said? Has it really worked? So there's a lot of things that are coming up, I think, on this full moon that I think need to be expressed and revealed. Yeah, that happens on August 1st. Now, on the 31st, the day before, the moon is conjunct to Pluto and trine to Uranus. So it's almost like it's picking up on this sense of we need dynamic change. But first we need to let go of kidding ourselves. Let's get into the 3 decans of Aquarius, shall we? If you know your natal sun is between 0 and 9 degrees Aquarius, you are Aquarius 1, because your natal sun is somewhere in the first decan of Aquarius. This correlates to January Aquarius birthdays. So anyone born between January 22nd and 31st, you would be Aquarius 1s. If you are at the cusp, only the cusp, say January 21st, 22nd, maybe 23rd, your natal suns are still conjunct to Pluto. Though it's thinning out because Pluto is in retrograde and it's gone back another degree. It's at 28 degrees now instead of 29. So it's really, really just the cusps. On between the 31st and the 1st, your natal suns, and I'm sorry, on the 31st, your natal suns are going to be conjunct to the moon. This could make you extra certain of yourself, extra sure, feeling like you've come together and recognized what matters, not arguing with yourself, no dissonance, almost like emotional stability, because both your sun and the moon are reflecting the same consciousness. You have a long-term sextile to Neptune, which means there's a lot of creativity going on, and opportunity through faith and through creating out of nowhere, out of pure imagination. You are square to the nodes, cusps only, square to the nodes, which means for you guys, there's huge transitions happening in your life. Turning a corner, done with one thing and doing things that might surprise you. In that you may have never been interested in things like this before. You may have been interested in the exact opposite, but now you're starting to see your proclivities or your interests change and shift. We have an opposition to the sun, which is very important. Now the full moon is an opposition to the sun. So you guys will, all week long, your natal suns are in opposition to the current position of the sun. The sun will be, I think, 9 degrees Leo on the full moon. But all week long, the sun is in the first decan of Leo, and your natal suns will be in opposition to this. This is conflict with ego and confidence and maybe even self-esteem. This could be arrogance or a rise in superficiality. This could be, look at me, I want attention, or feeling like you always have to be, like feeling like there's too much attention on you all the time. So there is definitely a buildup here to this full moon of, well, what needs to be released or called bullshit on, right? We also have a quincunx to Mercury as of the 29th, which means there's been some agitation when it comes to communication, misinterpretation, frustration, or lack of information. This is not the best time for you to take important tests or give important presentations or have important conversations or sign important paperwork. I would hold that off to the week after next. FYI, this could be a really almost like an expose, I would say, energy for you this week. Aquarius 2s. If you know that your natal sun is between 10 and 19 degrees Aquarius, your Aquarius 2s, this correlates to February 1st through 10th birthdays. Your natal suns are sextile to Chiron, which means it means for quite some time now you have been inspired to make change and create change because of the difficulties and challenges that you've had in your life. The semi-square to Neptune means that there is maybe fogginess or lack of clarity that you're having to deal with normally, or easily distracted. That's okay as long as you use it in a creative way and channel the energy in a creative way. But this week, there is a square to the moon on the 28th, but there's also a square to Jupiter all week long. So a square to the moon is an emotional day on the 28th. This sense of a stirring inside of you that kind of frustrates your energy. Now this would be with the moon in Scorpio, that your natal suns would be square to the moon Aquarius. So it could be with unsettled emotions that you've tried to hide or not deal with that come to the surface on that day. This natal sun square to Jupiter all week just means there's an excitability about you that wants a dynamic change or wants to grow and expand and do things and go places, but maybe you're trying to do too much too fast and it's becoming challenging for you. So a good thing to do with this energy is a sense of back off. Trust that things will happen without you having to push. We also have a quincunx to Mars, which means, once again, that frustrated energy of I got to act now, I got to do something now. This could lead to major impulsivity, FYI. If you are Aquarius 3s, you know that your natal sun is between 20 and 29 degrees Aquarius. This correlates to Aquarian birthdays between, I always get this wrong with Aquarius, I would say, the 11th through the 20th, right? Because February doesn't necessarily go all the way, sometimes it just goes to the 19th. February always goes through the 19th, but Aquarius season ends a little early because February is a cut down month. So there is just that sense of maybe the 11th through the 19th or the 20th. You would be Aquarius 3s. Definitely Pisces cuspers. Your natal suns are sextile to the North Node and trine to the South Node. This means dynamic changes are happening over the next 6 months for you, especially when it comes to your personal identity versus your partnerships. Whatever readjustments need to be made, this is an opportunity for you to actually take the bull by the horns and grow up a bit. Allow a situation to mature. We also have a square to Uranus, which means that your natal suns are square to your own ruling dignitary. This could cause some agitation and frustration in yourself that is making you want to break free of chains or restrictions or get bored more easily than normal with the normal and the mundane. This is a long-term energy. This week, though, your natal suns are in opposition to Venus, and you will be also opposite Mercury through the 28th. So you'll be opposite the Mercury-Venus conjunction while square to Uranus. There could be a lot of frustration and mischievousness that comes up, especially through technology, social media, the net, whatever those discoveries are made, just this sense of I don't want to stay the same. I want to go outside my normal boxes. And that could mean that your standards are a little bit lower because you just want to explore and experiment. You're just so sick of the norm. So it could be you guys that have the most pressure on you and the most likelihood of cheating, shocking people, surprising even yourself kind of energy. Not to say that you're going to, but the temptation will be the strongest there. Lots of change here with partnerships is what I wrote down, especially since this opposition to the Venus-Mercury conjunction is happening while your natal suns are sextile to the North Node, which means we're moving forward. I want change. I want something different. Maybe I want more independence now since the North Node is just gotten into Aries. And this sense of trine with the South Node, trine with partnerships, kind of lackadaisical and a little bit too cozy. And you need a little bit more life going on when it comes to your own independence. So this could be, maybe you're just comfortable enough in your relationship so that you can be a little bit more independent, but there could be some major temptations going on in those areas this week. Just an FYI. So you guys let me know in the comments below how this energy is impacting you guys. And please don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you grow and we grow over here. And then come on over to Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your week ahead tarot card reading. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon.